Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Whew. Takes me back to my days at Zion Travelers First Baptist Church in New Orleans, Louisiana. I don't know why they had seats in it, because people stood through the whole service. And that's what's going on here today. There's something going on, my beloveds. Something being stirred up in us. And I believe that it's not only right here. I believe we're being stirred up in a lot of places, everywhere. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's coming out in some ways very negative. People shooting people, killing people, fighting, destroying. I was taught by Unity every attack is a call for love. And I truly believe that when we allow hate to move forward towards someone else, what we are doing is we are trying to push them into finding a way to love us anyway. Are you with me? Because at the truth of it all, there is only one of us. There's only one of us. We are all connected to each other, and there's not anything that we can do to separate that. But in the midst of growing up through segregation, my experience and the things that I felt were not aligned with that truth. It was aligned with the pain that was coming forth from what was being directed toward me. And the thing that I want to share with you all today is something that I believe shaped my whole life. My parents decided not to stay together. My mother and I moved back to her hometown of New Orleans, stayed with her grandmother for a while. My father went back to his home in Houston. And as a little girl, I was in New Orleans, and if you know New Orleans was not, in the very, very, very early years, was not totally segregated in the neighborhoods. No, we couldn't go to the movies together, we couldn't go to restaurants together, we couldn't go to school together. But because of the way that things were laid out in the uptown area, in the Carrollton area, it was established for times of slavery. So there were major houses, and there were smaller houses for the people who were slaves, and ultimately people who worked for them. And we were living in a neighborhood with my great-grandmother where this was the case. And so there was a big, huge house at the corner, but in between there were 3 smaller houses. and a little bit larger one on this end. And the interesting thing was that when children went out to play, I want you to hear me, what I'm about to say. When children went out to play, they looked for someone to play with. They didn't look at color. I want you to hear me. Little kids did not see color until they were taught the difference. So where I was, 2 doors over, was a little Caucasian girl. I was 4 and she was 4. We saw each other and fell madly in love. And all we wanted to do was play together. And things were so acceptable as far as that is concerned that I could spend the night at her house, she could spend the night at my house. And we just played and played, and sometimes when we took our naps, we'd take the nap at her house, and other times a nap at her house. But one day, we were playing in my great-grandmother's yard. I think we were making mud pies. Of course, our hands and clothes were full of mud. And someone came out of her house. Amy, where are you? It was a much, very, very old man. I knew her father. And he saw us playing. And he said, "What are you doing? Playing with that N-word. Come on here. You're not supposed to be playing with no N-word. Get away from that N-word. N-word, you know you're not supposed to be near my granddaughter." Now, he was brought in by his son from the country because he was elderly and he wasn't well, so they brought him to New Orleans to live with them. And he ranted and raved and N-worded me, and I am so devastated. I was so hurt. I was so broken. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And my mother came out because she heard the yelling, and she grabbed me and she took me inside. And he took Amy inside. And I was so hurt. That was my best friend. Because he lived there, I was never allowed to play with her again. I felt broken. I didn't understand what that inward thing meant because I had not heard that one. My mother sat me down and I took a nap, bathed me, got the mud pies off me and put me in the bed, let me take a nap. And when I woke up, she sat me down. And she looked at me and she said, "I understand how you feel. I know how much you and Amy loved each other and loved playing together. But that cannot be anymore." Why? I don't understand. And she said, "Because she is one color and you're another, and at this time, it's the way it is." She said, "But I want you to know. I want you to know who you are. You are not what her grandfather called you. I want you to know that you are the child of God. That you are made in its image and likeness, and you can be anything you want to be, and you can do anything you want to do. Never let anyone ever tell you what you can't be or can't do." And I tried to be everything. I took it at 5 foundation value. She said I could be anything or do anything. And years later, I was one of the first black flight attendants for United Airlines. I understand from a man I worked for up in New England that I was the first African American to pass the NASD securities exam. And I remember when I was a flight attendant, because what I didn't tell you was when that happened with Amy and me, and my mother told me what she did. In my mind, I said, no one will ever do this to me again. And I was determined to go as far as I could go. And I remember the days with United when we would fly to the West Coast and everything was fine. People would be nodding at the fact of this brown-skinned person in the uniform. But when we went from New York down to New Orleans, because this was where I was from and I wanted to come here at least every other month for my layovers, people would, because at that airport there was no jetway, it was that thing they rolled up to the plane. Y'all remember that? I know it's been a long time. They rolled up, so people had to walk up the stairs. And in Alabama, there were people who would come halfway up the stairs, look up and see me and say, I'm not flying with no inward. Oh, it happened. But what I did then was I turned and looked at my Caucasian flight attendants and said, another passenger meal for us. Because there was a certain number of meals for us, the flight attendants and the pilots, that were different. I mean, they were okay, but the passengers had had steaks and all that. So every time, and we knew how many meals we had and how many passengers we were expecting. And whenever somebody decided they weren't going to fly with that inward, it meant we had another passenger meal. And I learned to turn my pain into possibility. But don't clap too long. I was the first African American in many situations. I was the first African American opera singer at New Orleans Opera and other things. But what I didn't realize, and here's something to hear and let it relate to your life. What I didn't realize was that I stayed with United Airlines 5 years, and then I wanted to do something else, and I did this for so many, and I kept looking for more opportunities to prove that I was good enough to do that particular thing. Are you with me? Yes. And it wasn't until I was living in Houston as an adult with 2 young children that I became very, very ill. And they were saying that possibly if they couldn't take care of it, if they couldn't heal it and so forth, it could be 6 months to 2 years to live. And my aunt, who attended this church, brought me here to this church. And Sig Paulson's message that day was you can heal your life. Oh, don't be surprised. God's always doing things like that to me. And he got some people together here and started getting them to help me to learn how to speak to my body and to do certain natural things and so forth and so on. Oh, by the way, I'm still here. But what I understood about running around trying to be this and to be that and to get the outer accolades and so forth and so on was to heal the pain in me. But what really needed to happen was for me to heal the energy of what had occurred to create that pain in the first place. And Unity of Houston did that. A year and a half later, the doctors were astonished. I was good. You see, I had decided I couldn't die because there was nobody in my family I trusted to raise my children. And pretty soon, my son is going to be a Unity minister. Okay? And he was told that he was going to be a Unity minister when he was just a kid. Our minister in New Orleans, that was my next Unity church, told him one day, she was a psychic, and he said, "No, I'm not," and he ran. And he kept running and kept running and kept running, and then he ran into it. So what I'm talking about is understanding that these kinds of things are false evidence appearing real. Say that with me. False evidence appearing real. It ain't the truth, in other words. But because of the issues already within us, because of what we are believing about ourselves in here, and believing about out there, and believing that out there could impact us when actually there's no out there out there. There's only in here, in here. Because if you remember, our elder brother, Jesus the Christ, said, "Don't you know you are God's?" That was not an apostrophe S, that we belong to God. It was G-O-D-S. That we are made in the image and likeness of God. And therefore, we can do all these things and more. It's all through the Bible. You just got to read it. And that was what Sig Paulson taught me first. And that is what I began to do in order to be able to live, to raise my children, and make sure my son becomes a Unity minister. Because I believed that. It made sense to me, beloveds. It really did. Because all the other stuff that I'd been looking at, it wasn't doing it for me. But when I started doing the new thought processes and the prayer and the meditation and connecting with the divine flow that moves in and through us, that divine flow that is the universe, that is God, and connecting with that and aligning with it to take me from here to there, my life completely changed, and I'm still here. And our elder brother said, he kept trying to tell us. He said, these things I do, hello, you can do, hello, and even greater. But do you believe it? See, I didn't have any choice. I was on the way to die. I had 2 children I wanted to see raised in the way that I wanted them to become. So I worked on it. I did all the healing work on all of the issues that I had in my life that were not of God. You know, that false evidence appearing real? You're not good enough, you'll never be good enough, you're brown-skinned, you won't be able to do this, you won't be able to do that. I broke so many color barriers. I was starting to think I was white paint. But you see, our elder brother said, these things I do, hello, you can do, hello. You all know I love my deer, right? And even greater. And if these things are not being facilitated within you and then on the outside in manifestation, it means that somewhere you are not believing that you are God. You are believing that you can love God and you can worship God and you can talk to God and God will hear you. But my elder brother, your elder brother said, these things I do, talk with me, come on, you can do, and what? Even greater. I'm the proof, and here's the pudding. I'm still here. And so what is this calling? First of all, no one can tell you who you be. And no one can tell you what you can do and what you can't do. If you get up on a stage to sing and everybody starts holding their ears, well, then you're not a singer. But if you get a canvas and you paint a magnificent painting and the same person is raving over that, that's your purpose. And so there is a process of finding our purpose. And when we understand who we are and whose we are, when we understand there is nothing we can't do, then we can accomplish that which we truly desire. And trust me, you will be told, oh, there's this little place inside of here. You will be told all you have to do is ask, is this for me? Is this the direction in which you want me to go? What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? I am willing to do your will. Just tell me in a way that I will understand. That's all you got to do. And then sit, shut your mouth, and listen. And wait for that still small voice. And you'll get an inspiration, and then you say, because this is what I did. I had to because I knew me. Tell me in a way that I will understand. I am willing to do your will, but you got to tell me in a way that I will understand. And so what I want to share with you is a process that I believe will assist you in that. And it's interesting because it's based on unity principles in the Bible and so forth, but it comes from the radical forgiveness process. I want you to do these things. 1, go within, be still, know that you are God. Know it. I'm not talking about feel it, know it. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. No, tell yourself this daily, as many times, I am God, I am God, I am God. I still do it. And then tell your story to God. With all of the dramatic stuff, you can bring in all the drama. Tell God all this going on. Oh, it's so hard. I'm having a difficult time. I've been trying to get a job. I can't do it. Nobody wants me. Nobody believes in me. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Nobody understands me. So you write that story. You write that story. And then you collapse your story. You take away all the stuff you've made up about it. You know, you all have heard of MSU, making stuff up. Take away all of the drama and all that other stuff around the story, and you've heard of Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am. Okay, so you collapse that story to just the facts. And then you reframe the story. My desire is to be able to grow into a teacher who is able to relate to, choose the age range, can be adults, whatever, to help them understand ... and recognize that the ability for it is within them. And then you integrate the story. How are you functioning as an outstanding teacher in every day of your life? What are you teaching? What are you teaching? Because you're teaching very often without knowing what you're teaching. And if what you are teaching is not the truth, the energy of that will return to you so that you can experience it, so that you will be able to understand and transform the erroneous information you are feeding yourself. And just be, after that, be open, be present, prepare. Because when you truly believe that you are meant to have it, when you believe that you are worthy of it, and by the mere fact that our elder brother said, don't you know that you're God's? You are worthy of it. You are worthy of it. You are worthy of it. Michael wasn't certain at age 2 that he was going to be a unity minister. But on his pathway, forgive me, Michael, he had experiences that opened his understanding of what a unity minister is and what it can do and what it will bring to humanity and so forth. And based on what it brought to him as a result of the pain he experienced, he became a unity minister. Am I right, Michael? Amen. Okay. And so what I want you to do, play a game with me. Pretend until you are clear that you believe it. Pretend that what it is you desire has been preordained. All right? And that it is waiting for you at the end of your journey of unfoldment. That you are simply preparing yourself at the level of mind, body, and spirit to be able to reach out and accept it. Are you with me? And so where I want you to take this, and please forgive me, I have to say this, especially my African American brothers and sisters, because I'm sorry to say that many of you still believe what they told you over 100 and some years ago. It's time to burn that stuff. It's time to take the ashes of it, dig a hole in the ground, put it in there, and bury it. And to get up and dance around it, singing, free at last, thank God Almighty, I am what? Free at last. Because it is time for you to remove the false evidence appearing real. To stop our children, our teenagers, from shooting each other because there is such a deep hatred instilled within them of the black skin that they are killing each other. So I know my time is up. I hear somebody come in the back. Just be still and know that you are God. Stop running around trying to find God. God is you. It cannot be otherwise. It is the truth of your being. Our older brother Jesus says, don't you know that you are God? I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And if there's anything that I said today that will take you out of what prevents you from being in your full power, then I've done my job.
Watching this message today, I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.